Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Atpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyadravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text?
We're in chapter 1 on page 50, on verse 57.
Chapter 1, verse 57. Will you help us out, please, Ganesh?
That's page 28, Mark.
Yeah, let me look. Well, I have page 39, but this is a Kindle, so it's not a book, actually.
Okay.
It is correct in the book.
Make sure it's on chapter 1.
Yeah, okay. So chapter 157. Vrittinam anuvrittistu prayatnat prathamadapi adrishta sakridabhyasa samskara sachivad bhavet. The mind continues to be fixed in the Paramatman, in the state of Samadhi, as a result of the effort of will made prior to its achievement and helped by the merits of previous births and the strong impression created through constant efforts at getting into Samadhi.
Yes. So actually, the only thing we can practice is savikalpa samadhi. Experientially, when those of you who've been here in class, and we tune up the mind and everything drops. There's that intense, thunderous silence. You're aware of the no thingness of the self. That's savikalpa samadhi. There's still a little bit of an awareness of the person, still a perception of the world. And it's not about trying to grip the mind into quiescence. It does take some concentration. But what holds the mind, the egoistic mind in existence, is vasana, It's our attachments. It's our identifications. I was talking with a student this morning, and God bless him, he's meditating 4 hours a day. He's doing a brahmachari course with the Dayananda people on Zoom online. And then the discussion today was, well, there's this body working thing, and maybe I'll get involved with that to make a little money. And then I've got to be conscious of the fact that, you know, interest rates have gone up and my mortgage payment. And then, you know, what do you think about, you know, my social life? And you know, I want to go back and see my ex-girlfriend again, and da 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 da. And I just said, you know, stop. You're fooling yourself. The price tag is renunciation of the world. That has nothing to do with where you live or how many objects are around you. It's where do you invest? Where do you invest identity? Where do you invest happiness? So we talk about adhyasa, superimposition. A classic metaphor, you do not apprehend the rope, so I superimpose the snake. The phenomenal world is neither good nor bad. It is shunyata, it's empty. It is my mind that imbues the stuff of the world with value. As I like to say, you're never gonna see the rope as long as you keep smooching that snake. So we keep snipping each one of these attachments and identifications. It doesn't do any good to run away from the world. It's not about joining an ashram. Ashrams can be of value. They're for weak lovers of the Lord, Yogananda used to say. But when you leave the ashram, if all the attachments are there, it does you no good. So we have to come to this place of neutrality, of samadhi. Then when the last attachment, the last identification is renounced, the mind slips into nirvana. Will I know it if I have nirvikalpa? It is absolutely self-validating. What does it reveal? The non-existence of the personal sense of self. Absolute reality of who and what we are. It swallows all doubt. Doesn't have to be a long time. It's a subtle shift. Is nirvikalpa samadhi necessary or not? Some Vedantins say it's not. All I know is Shankara lauds samadhi and Viveka Chudamani. And here, Vidyaranya talks about its value. Do not make samadhi another object of desire. Just see it out there, it's there. But instead, keep renouncing all attachments to worldly experiences till you come to a place of neutrality, willing to do anything for the rest of eternity you're willing to do without anything for the rest of eternity. And all ideas of self. This fellow was talking about, well, you know, I see myself as like a disciplined person. I set a goal and I go for it. And I pride myself on being authentic. And I just said to him, that's nonsense. Is Brahman authentic? Is Brahman disciplined? Drop it. Well, how will I take care of like paying the rent or the mortgage of the world? Don't worry about it. Your prarabdha will take care of it. The mortgage will either get paid or it won't. You're not needed. Don't worry. Focus on Brahman. Be a mumukshu. Mumukshu is someone with a burning desire for liberation. It has to be more important than anything else. Now, if it's not, no blame. Then we continue to do our karma yoga, our bhakti yoga. Takes what it takes. But if liberation is what you want samadhi. Did we talk about Ch.2 samadhi last week? I can't remember. Someone help me out. Am I still online?
Yeah,
Did I talk about Ch.2 samadhi?
I don't know if it was last week or in some class you have, but may not be this
Let's
one.
review it. Ch.2 means inert. So you can do pranayama, you can do the bandhas to do all the energy blocks and stuff like that and reach a point where the mind achieves a thoughtless state. But if vasana is still there, the experience is I see nothing. Now you may hyperventilate, you get high, think, oh, I'm having a spiritual experience, whatever. The operative thing is vairagya to achieve samadhi. All right, next verse.
यथा दीपो निवातस्थ इत्यादिभिर अनेकधा भगवानिम् अमेवार्थम् अर्जुनाय nyarupayat. The same idea Sri Krishna pointed out to Arjuna in various ways. Example, when he compares the steady mind to the flame of a lamp in a breezeless spot.
Yes, yes. So he quotes Gita, bringing the mind to quiescence, like the flame of a candle, a lamp in a windless room. And Dear Arjuna says, oh, Krishna, trying to control the mind is like trying to control the wind. And Krishna says, that's true, but it can be done through practice. That's the key. Next verse.
Anadaviha samsare samchitta karma kotayah anena vilayam yanti shuddho dharmo vivardhate. As a result of this nirvikalpa samadhi, millions of results of actions accumulated in this beginningless world over past and present births are destroyed, and pure dharma, helpful to the realization of truth, grows.
So, samadhi, this nirvikalpa samadhi, when I have these moments when I know aham brahmasmi, I am that witnessing consciousness, destroys millions and millions of vasanas. Becomes the doorway of being able to revel in Brahman. Don't settle for book learning alone. It's what we call paroksha jnana. That's important to have a clear understanding. But it should inspire us to practice till we have aparoksha jnana, direct experience. Next one.
Dharma meghamimam prahuhu samadhim yoga vittamaha varshatyeshayato dharma amrita dhara sahasrashaha. The experts in yoga call the samadhi a rain cloud of dharma because it pours forth countless showers of the bliss of dharma.
So as a result of this, effortlessly the woman or the man of wisdom can revel in the self. Seeing the self everywhere, it becomes the foundation of everything in life. And it's the only thing really worth talking about. Now,
Jim, this is, oh,
go ahead.
sorry, this is Sheila. Hi.
Hi, Sheila.
So when the mind, when you're reveling in the self, and this is just a technical question, what is your mind doing?
Not much.
Okay. So
what you need to do is come here
mhm,
and be with me.
okay.
And when we tune up together, I can show you the awakened state of mind. I can't, words fail us.
Okay.
This is one of the things the teacher can do. You get an opportunity to be with a teacher, and you can tune to, then they can show you the mind and samadhi. Now, if we still have too many attachments, we may not be able to feel it that much and our minds don't drop yet. But in time, it will. Your question is like, what happens to the wave when it settles down and becomes the ocean? Where does it go? What happens to it?
That's my question. Exactly.
Yeah, much like where does the wave go? It becomes the ocean.
Mm-hmm. So it merges into the ocean.
Yes, yes.
So that's where the word yoga comes from, union or something.
That's exactly. The mind is yoked to the infinite.
Mm. Okay. Thank you.
There's a wonderful image. It's one of my favorites. It's very, very popular and common. If you can look it up on Google. And it's Hanuman embracing Lord Ram. Have you ever seen that picture?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
So Hanuman is the mind. So he's all blissed out, just hugging Lord Ram. Ram's holding him. Sometimes he looks like absolutely neutral. Sometimes he's got a little bit of a smile. But Ram is the self and Hanuman is the mind.
Thank you. I like that analogy. Very, thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful image.
Yeah.
All right, next verse.
Amuna vasana jale nirashesham pravilapite samulonmulite punya papakhe karma sanchaye. The entire network of desires is fully destroyed, and the accumulated actions known as merits and demerits are fully rooted out by this samadhi.
Why? What does samadhi do? So we go back to what I call the ruthless rule of the mind. The ruthless rule of the mind is the mind will pursue the experience that's given it the greatest joy. Can't help it. Thank God, God is the most beloved, or we'd all be screwed. So samadhi, it's so clean, it's so pure, it's so endless. This direct experience of the bliss of the self. Then we don't have to worry anymore about leaving the world. The world leaves us. What world? Well, there was a world here and it upset me and attracted me, but God. I mean, I perceive name and form, but it's all shunyata. It's all trinkets and baubles. Pieces of colored glass, no gems anymore. The mark of the person of steady wisdom is the mind no longer extroverts into the world. You can tell it when someone's got a serious craving. Oh, I want. May you have a long life. For the moony, no attraction anymore. Next verse.
वाक्यमप्रतिबद्धं सत् प्राक् परोक्षावभासिते करामलकवोत्पाद करामलकवोत्पादम् अपरोक्षं प्रसूयते. Then the great dictum, freed from the obstacles of doubt and ambiguity, gives rise to a direct realization of the truth, as a fruit in one's palm, truth which was earlier comprehended indirectly.
Yes. So in samadhi, the indirect truth, the paroksha jnana, becomes direct aparoksha. Abhyasa vairagyacha. That's what we do. Sit in meditation, and in the world, renounce. That doesn't mean wearing ugly clothes and all that kind of stuff. Do your duty. If you have a family, take care of your family. If you have a job, go to work and do excellent work, devoting it to God. Serve the society. Let go. And when a desire arises, you say, I see you for what you are. What I really seek is myself. Let it go. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Paroksham Brahma Vijnanam Shabdam Deshikapurvakam Buddhipurvakritam Papam Kritsnam Dahati Bahnivat. The knowledge of Brahman obtained indirectly from the Guru, teaching the meaning of the great dictum, burns up like fire all sins committed up to that attainment of knowledge.
I'm sorry, read it one more time. I didn't catch some of the words, Ganesh.
The knowledge of the knowledge of Brahman obtained indirectly from the Guru, teaching the meaning of the great dictum, burns up like fire all sins committed up to that attainment of knowledge.
Yeah. So we get the indirect knowledge from the Guru, from the study of the scripture. This is our Shravana. And we think about it. We wrestle with these ideas. one another. Long, continuous meditation, nididhyasana. Till we have the direct experience that swallows all our doubt. Direct experience. Approach. Next verse.
Aparokshatma vijnanam shabdam deshikapurvakam samsara karana jnana tamasaschanda bhaskara. The direct realization of the knowledge of the self obtained from the Guru's teaching of the great dictum is like the scorching sun that dispels the very darkness of avidya, the root of all transmigratory existence.
So the Vedanta is called a Shabda Pramana, a valid means of knowledge through sound, through words. So in the gestalt of class, ideally, what's supposed to happen is as we break open the scripture, and as the Guru continues to turn your mind back on your own self-nature, the mind gets purer and purer, and your understanding and experience come together at the same time. Meaning you have a direct experience and we tell you what you're experiencing while you're experiencing it. The mind made very quiet. Listen to the traffic outside. Now introvert your attention. Who or what knows the sound of the traffic? And it's just being heard. There's no person there hearing. We endeavor to do this over and over and over. Anytime you notice the knower, you have that direct experience. There's nobody there. Burns millions. Till you get sthita prajna, steady wisdom. Next verse.
Itham tattva vivekam vidhaya vidhivan manasas madhaya. Itham tattva vivekam vidhaya vidhivan manasas samadhaya vigallikta samsriti bandha prapnoti param padam. Oh, it's a different.
Yeah.
I think the
Da,
meter.
da, 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 da. I think that's the meter.
Yeah, I think that's right. Itham tattva vivekam vidhaya vidhivan manasas samadhaya vigallita samsriti bandha prapnoti param padam naro nachira. Thus, a man distinguishes the self from the five sheaths, concentrates the mind on it according to the scriptural injunctions, becomes free from the bonds of repeated births and deaths, and immediately attains the supreme bliss.
So he sums up this whole discussion of the discrimination between the real and the unreal, the self and the not self, microcosmically and macrocosmically. Microcosmically with the five she's. I'm not the body and the Maya kosha. I'm not the energy body, prana Maya kosha. I'm not the mind, manomaya kosha. I'm not the intellect, vijnana Maya kosha. With the karta, the sense of agency in the vijnana Maya kosha. And I'm not even the pure ignorance of the bliss sheath. I'm the witness of it all. And macrocosmically, ultimate reality is not the physical universe. It's not the mental universe or the psychic universe. It's not the energetic universe. And it's not the causal universe, the total cosmos. It is Brahman, the ground of being itself. And this witnessing consciousness in you, and that Brahman, which is the substratum of the whole universe, they are the same thing. Birthless, changeless, deathless, eternal. You don't become Brahman. Actually, you realize you've always been it. This belief that I was a person caught up in lifetimes of worldly existence is just a very long, very vivid dream. It's not real. Wake up from the waking state. Be truly woke. Is that the end of this chapter?
Yeah.
All right. So let's plunge into the second chapter where we have an in-depth discussion of the tanmatras, the five elements.
Dvitiyodhyayah, Mahabhuta Vivekah. Chapter 2, the differentiation of the five elements. Sadadvaitam shrutam yattat panchabhuta vivekatah bodham shakyam tato bhuta panchakam pravichyate. Brahman, who is according to Shruti, the non-dual reality, can be known by the process of differentiation from the five elements. So this process is now being discussed in detail.
So now we're going to approach what is this world, essentially. And through seeing the discussion of he calls it the Panchabhutani, the five elements, also called the tanmatras. That's their subtle form. See if we can come to what is this world. Now, let me summarize in advance where we're going through this. When I first started to study Vedanta and I heard about the 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, and ether, I would say, oh God, this is not science. This is ancients who didn't know what an element was. Iron is an element. Helium is an element. Argon is an element, not earth. They just didn't understand it. And then later on, I found out that actually it's much subtler than I thought. And what it does, it has to do with the discussion of the whole yogic understanding of perception itself and what is it that I'm seeing. Now, again, as with most of Vedanta, it all becomes very easy if you go to the dream state. You are the God of your dream. So if you dream you're seeing a wooden coffee table, what is it made of? Seeability, tasteability, touchability, smellability, hearability, all in a very unique combination. It seems like it's wood, just like the coffee table in my living room seems like it's wood. What's your wood table made? Wood. That's made of cellulose. Well, that's mostly carbon. But what yoga is saying is that's an illusion. To the dreamer, the dream ego, the dream coffee table seems just as solid, concrete, and real and separate as this coffee table in my living room. And through this in-depth discussion of the Panchadasi, we can begin to understand this whole yogic notion of perception itself. So that's kind of where we're going with all this. The world that I see is not separate, concrete, and has a reality separate from consciousness. It's all Brahman. All right, let's get into the verses. Next one.
Shabdasparshau Ruparasau Gandho Bhutaguno ime Ekadvitra Chatushpanchaya Guna Vyomadishukramat. The properties of the 5 elements are sound, touch, color, taste, and smell. In Akasha, ether, air, fire, water, and earth, the number of properties successively are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
So what does he mean by this? So if in the world I am out camping and I build a bonfire, that is not the pure element of fire. Why? Because not only can I see the fire, the bonfire, but if I sit close to it, I feel its warmth. I stick my hand near it, it burns. I can smell the firewood as it burns. There's an updraft of air coming off of it. I can hear the wood crackle. So at the grossest level, all these perceptions combine in unique ways. So when I light the incense off the burner on the stove, there's fire. And in itself is a different fire than the bonfire when I'm out camping. And it's the same with any other object. So I go across Grand Avenue and I walk through the park. And I pass by one of the vegetable gardens. And you can smell the earth, but you can also feel it. Not sure I want to taste it. But if I pick up a handful of dirt and let it drop through my hands, I can hear it. So it's not pure earth. It's all the other elements in it. So that's what he's talking about, this number of the 5. They're all kind of here in every object in the phenomenal world. Next verse.
Pratidvanir viyachabdo vayo bisiti shabdanam anushna shita samsparsha vahno bhugu 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 dhvani. Echoes arise in the Akasha, and hence we infer that the property of Akasha is sound. Air makes a rustling sound when it moves, and it feels neither hot nor cold to the touch. A fire in a flame makes a characteristic crackling sound.
So here he's talking about this combination. I forgot a certain piece. So in their pure form, earth is the quality of smellability. Air is the quality of touchability. I can feel the air on my skin. Fire is the quality of seeability. Water is the quality of tasteability. Space, akash, sometimes translated as ether, is hearability. So what Vidviranya is talking about is this connection between sense and sense perception. Now, where he's going to go with this, the sensor, the sensing, and the object sensed are really all consciousness. Again, if we go to the dream state, in my dream, I have a dream body with 5 dream senses. And let's say I see a Porsche car driving by really fast and I can hear it. So the dream me, the sensor, the senses, and the object that I sense, the Porsche, are nothing but my mind splitting into, refracting into these various knower, knowing, and known relationships. You are the God of your dream. The same way in which your dream comes about, so also the infinite brings about this. The nose in your dream body is made up by your mind. Listen carefully. So is the nose of the waking state. The body is nothing more than the mind grossified. The slower vibration. All it is. All right, any questions about that? I should have said that at the beginning to get the overall context for this. All right, next verse.
Ushnasparsha-prabharupam jale bulubulu-dhvanihi Shita-sparsha shukal-rupam Raso madhurya-miritah. A fire feels hot and its color is red. Water makes a characteristic rippling sound. It is cold to the touch, its color is white, and it is sweet in taste.
So again, here he's talking about what is called technically the Panchakarana, which is the fivefold division and subsequent recombination of the subtle form of the elements to make up the things of this world. So here he's just giving examples of how water, as it appears in this world, has all five elements, all five sensory experiences in it. Even though at the subtle level, we would say water is the element that governs taste. But actual water, you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell it. That's all he's talking about, this grossification. Next verse.
Bhumau kadakada shabdah kaఠిన్యం sparshameshyate niladikam chitra rupam madhuramladiko rasah. The earth makes a characteristic rattling sound. It is hard to the touch. Its variegated colors are blue, red, and so forth. It is sweet, sour, and so forth in taste.
So again, he's talking, taking each one of these senses when we experience them in the physical waking state, that they're not in their pure form, they're in their combined form. Going on.
Surabhi taragandhau dvau guna samyag vivechitaah shrotram chakshushi Ch.1 Ghranam Chendriya Panchakam. The earth emits smells both pleasant and unpleasant. Thus, the characteristic properties of the five elements are well classified. The five senses which perceive them are hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell.
Yes. So basically, again, as I summed it up in the beginning, there are the five sense organs which perceive the world: seeing, hearing, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Those are the organs. The senses themselves: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and then the various objects in the world, which are a fivefold division and recombination of those various sense perceptions. Now, what I find interesting, the scripture only talks about these five senses. My mind goes, well, what about animals that have other senses? The one that always comes to my mind is sharks which have these little pits on their noses, and they're able to sense the electric current that happens within living beings because of the transmission of neural activity. So you watch a hammerhead shark, they've got this big thing on their face. They go along the bottom of the ocean, and they're using that sense to find the crabs and the stuff like that that are underneath the sand. They're not using seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. They're using another sense. It's very interesting. I don't know if there are other animals that have other ways of sensing. Going on.
Karanadi Golakastham Tat Chabdadi Grahakam Kramat Saukshmyat Karyanumeyam Tat Prayo Dhaved Tadhaved Bahirmukham. The five senses successively function through the external apparatus, the gross organs, the ears, the skin, the eyes, the tongue, and the nose. The senses are subtle. Their presence is to be inferred from their functions. They often move outwards.
Yes. So the senses in their subtle form occur in the subtle body, the sukshma sharira. Why do we say that? Because you can see, hear, taste, touch, and smell in a dream. You have hands, feet, anus, tongue, and genitalia in a dream most of the time. So that's their subtle form. Then they function through the gross body with the physical eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. But I always use this example, and I just love it. So I have this habit, at 11 o'clock, I put on channel 5 and I watch local news. And then I want to watch Stephen Colbert at 11:30. And most of the time I fall asleep. So the TV is going on. Stephen Colbert is going blah, 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 blah. And if I'm dreaming, let's say I dream I'm at the symphony, the sound coming from the television goes into my ear, vibrates my eardrum, goes through the 3 little bones into the cochlea, sends a nerve impulse to the brain. But what I'm hearing is a Beethoven symphony. So you see, the subtle body has to be connected to the physical body in order for senses to operate. Who out there in Zoom land wears glasses?
Mm.
Do you wear glasses in your dream?
No.
Isn't that interesting? My vision is perfect in my dream. I am not legally blind in my dream. I'm also not fat in my dream, which I think is very funny. So you see the subtle senses, the subtle body operates through the physical body. Clearest example I like to use, it's like a mask on Halloween. So if I wear an Elon Musk mask, you can see the eyes, I can stick my tongue out. Ugh. Buy a Tesla, buy a Tesla. But if I take the mask off, the mask cannot see, it cannot speak. Physical body is like that.
Jim,
Now-
I have a question. Sorry.
Please, go right ahead.
So first, would intuition be considered a sense, or like when you're thinking, is that a sense?
Oh, you are subtle. You are subtle.
Okay.
So we're only talking about the 5 outer senses. The mind is also a sense organ. We sense thought atmospheres. The quiet mind has access to wisdom, intuition. But we're not talking about the mind as a sense organ per se here. We're talking about ultimately, what is this phenomenal world? So
Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So we'll set the discussion on the mind as a sense organ on the shelf for now, but
Okay.
it's a very good one. So for example, if you're here in class and we get tuned up and you feel this incredible Shakti, peace, what's feeling it? It's not eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Antithetically, you walk into a room and you can feel, oh God, there's been an argument here. You can feel it. It's not just body language that you're picking up unconsciously. The mind itself is a sense organ and senses thought atmospheres. But I don't want to get into that too much. So the idea here is the senses reside in the subtle body. They function through the physical body in the waking state. They function on their own in the dream state. Then the last part of this verse is he talks about the outgoing tendencies. Here he's quoting directly from the Upanishads, where it says, the Lord created the senses with outgoing tendencies. I look at stuff, I hear things, etc. Now, for a yogi, what we want to learn to do is introvert sense perception. Keep it within. That's going against the way they tend to operate. Little subtle tag on the end of this verse. Okay, one more.
कदाचित् पिहिते कर्णे श्रूयते शब्दान्तरः कदाचित् पिहिते कर्णे श्रूयते शब्दान्तरः प्राणवायौ जठराग्नौ जलपानेन भक्षणे. But sometimes we hear the sounds made by our ingoing and outgoing breaths, and we hear buzzing sounds when our ears are stopped. We feel an internal sensation of hot and cold when food and water are swallowed.
So here he's talking about how we can actually have sense perception of the body itself, not just the external world. Have you ever had spicy food and then you belch and you taste your lunch again? Or I can hear my breath. Most of you probably don't have this yet. A lot of old people do. I do. Sometimes when you're in meditation, very quiet, you have, is it tinnitus or tinnitus? Mark, how do you pronounce it?
Tinnitus.
Tell us what tinnitus is.
It's a vibration of the hair cells that cause in the cochlea.
So what's the direct experience?
So a high pitched sound.
Yeah. I often thought when the Western mystics would say, oh, the music of the spheres, it's tinnitus. But the point here that Vidyaranya is getting at is we not only sense the external world, but we actually directly through the senses sense the physical body and all its phenomena. Next verse.
Vyajante hyantara sparsha milane chantaram tamah udnare rasagandhau chet yakshanamantaragraha. When our eyes are closed, we see inside the absence of light, and in belching we experience taste and odor. Thus, the sense organs give rise to experience of things within the physical body.
Yes, and again, he's just going on the same sort of thing. Sometimes when your eyes are closed, you'll see lights. That's different than we imagine things. You know, meditation, sometimes you'll get images and stuff like that if you think in images rather than words. That's a different phenomenon. But here he's talking about the sense perception of the body in the body itself. Next verse.
Panchoktaya tanagamanam. Panchoktaya dana gamana visarganandaka kriyaha krishi vanijya sevadhyaha panchasvantar bhavantihi. The various actions of man can be classified into 5 groups: speech, grasping, movement, excretion, and enjoyment of sexual intercourse. Actions performed in agriculture, commerce, service, and so forth may be included into one or the other of the groups.
So, hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitals. These are the karma indriyas, the 5 organs of action. And here Vidyaranya says, all the activities of our life are a combination of hands, grasping, feet, walking, running, kicking, tongue, speech, licking, anus, pooping, hands, feet, tongue, anus, and genitalia, doing the mufti pufti and all sorts of things. So these, we've been talking about what we call the Jnanendriyas, the organs of knowledge, or Buddhendriyas. Now he's shifted into talking about what we call the Karmendriyas, the organs of action. All right, I think we'll end here and we'll go into a little more depth about the how they also go through a 5-fold division and subsequent combination. It's really technical stuff, but the basic thing to understand The basic thing to understand is just as in the dream, I've got seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, hands, feet, tongue, anus, genitals, and objects that are seen, heard, touched, tasted, and smelled. But all it is just my mind appearing as knower, knowing, and known. This comes about in the same way. The dream is non-dual. The dream body is not really separate from the dream object. It's my one mind appearing as knower, knowing, and known. This world is non-dual. It seems like I am here in my body, and there's a solid world out there separate from me. Most importantly, that is joy-giving and that is misery-producing. If I don't get that, I'm really sad. And Vidyaranya is saying, like the dream, it's this Panchakaranam. It's this fivefold division and subsequent recombination of the subtle elements grossified into the phenomenal world. It's all consciousness. Yan sarvamaya sarvamananda. All this is the play of Maya. It's all bliss. What verse are we on for next week?
11.
Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om.